It's been such a long time. Hello, this is Benjamin Boyce, and welcome to the Missing in Action Mixed Martial Arts Mamma Mia Ask Me Anything, or the Miammamamamiaama. And for this tonight's live stream, I will just be speaking into the camera right now. And Dale, how you doing? I really have nothing on my plate. I have no agenda, despite what some people perceive me to have. So I'm just here, gonna try to be salient somewhat, at least sensual. Hopefully a bit of both, not too much of either. You don't want to be too salient. You don't want to make too much sense, because then there's no room for people to guess and to try to figure you out, and have that kind of that traction and that friction and that inclination to try to understand you. If you lay it all out there, you're all salient, then what are you? You're just a textbook. We're not doing that here. Likewise, you don't want to be too sensual, and I won't get into why you don't want to be too sensual, but if you're not sensual enough, then nobody's going to want to sense you. And because, whether we like it or not, we're disembodied now, but we're still using at least two senses right now, you and me, at least from what we are conversing with. But there might be more hidden senses involved in this, not least of all the sense of imagination, which ultimately is the sense that I would like to use my sense making to evoke. Look at all these people showing up to this Mixed Martial Arts Missing in Action Mamma Mia Ask Me Anything live stream with yours truly, Benjamin Boyce. So if you guys have any questions, I will begin to answer them. And look at how big that is on the screen. Juan Carlos Barriga. It's got to be Barriga, right? Not Barrija. That would not be, I don't think that's a Spanish or Hispanic or Latin pronunciation. It's Barriga. Barrija. That sounds something like a Dane would do. And we're not Danish around here. When is the next talk with James Lindsay and Wokel? James Lindsay has been on a whirlwind tour right now, and every once in a while I see, hey, what are you doing this week? You want to come back on? He's like, oh, I'd love to, but I'm going to be in 6 different cities at once and tweeting like a madman in every single one of them. This guy is, he's taken all of his ideas that he has worked out on his own, and with his friends, his colleagues, Helen Pluckrose and Peter Boghossian. See, again, it's not Boghossian, it's Boghossian. They did that so-called squared hoax, or I guess attempt at doing something. And they did those papers, and Peter, James has written several books, and Peter's written several books, and Peter and James wrote a book together called How to Have Impossible Conversations, and Helen and James wrote a book together called Cynical Theories. And I have not read How to Have Impossible Conversations because I don't want it to cramp my style. I want to have my kind of impossible conversations. So I haven't actually looked in that book, but I have read them, for the most part, the Cynical Theories. And as you know, he's been on my channel, and as you know, he does run nudist courses on the internet. He's got a woke dictionary, but he's worked it all out. But now this is the interesting thing about James Lindsay. He's not content with just to do the papers. He's out and he's talking about it. So he is just out, full blown, just out and about and talking about it. And Wokel, I don't think is as active, but he's got a life up in Canada. There are pictures floating around with them and another 11 or 12 nerds, looking stately, I suppose, insofar as those folk can appear to be stately, So I know that they're having gatherings of some sort of Kabbalistic nature, and by Kabbalistic I mean the diminutive use of that term. So I know that they're hooking up with each other here and there and everywhere, but I have not been able to book them on my channel, and I do hope to have that happen soon. Why don't we say I'll try to get Wokel on in September, and I'll keep on checking in with James. I don't want to burden him too much with my attention, though ultimately, if I want to provide him any value, it's just a relaxed space to just bro out and not have to perform at levels that he has to do when he's doing more professional stuff like TV and stuff like that. So hopefully he finds that my channel is something that he likes to do, because I get a lot of profit out of that. I get a lot of value out of that, and I try to share the value with him on a number of different levels. So my mic is too low. Are you sure my mic is too low? Okay. Thank you, Gracie. Grace Zeman. I should have checked that in, because I'm looking like I'm in the yellow over here, and I'm looking like I'm in the green over here. And, so we'll need to know. James Lindsay runs a only subs, as he calls it. Yeah, Alsvoid is back. Hopefully she will allow me to speak with her too. I've, asked her several times to come on, and she said that she would, and then the next day she said she was drunk, and so she's going to wait. But I hope to have her back on too, because that would be really great to catch up with her. I missed that dame like nobody's business, and it's great to have her back on. YouTube. Alice Void was active in, I think she started uploading in the very first month of 2018, or maybe December of 2017, or maybe even November, but she started uploading around that time. I found her pretty quickly, and I proposed to her in an awkward fashion to have a Skype conversation. And I didn't specify it as an interview or something. So she's like, oh, okay. But I don't think she doesn't get terribly offended, by that. But then I kind of I eventually figured out like my communication, failure in that respect. And then I had her on, and we had, I think we had 3 or 4 different conversations. And then she got a shout out from this, YouTuber called PewDiePie, who's, the cat's meow or pajamas, or, that guy, that PewDiePie guy. I don't know how many millions of subs he has or whatever. She got shouted out by him. Her channel went from like 20,000 subs to 90,000 subs. And along with all those subs came a lot of different kind of attention. And for whatever reason, I know that she tried to keep up with the stuff, but she wanted to concentrate on other things, such as her schooling and just things outside of YouTube. For whatever reason, I don't know, because I haven't actually spoken to her directly. She is back now. She's a philosopher. I don't think she wears dresses. So I guess a philosopher dress is not the proper term for her. So, I forgot. I kept on talking, and I forgot to check my levels. So let me see. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So, Shale Karis, what are my thoughts on the YouTube channel Unsafe Space? Unsafe Space. I don't want to get this wrong, so allow me one moment to go over to YouTube and look up Unsafe Space, because there's a couple of other Unsafe Space. There's a couple of other channels that are, yeah. Well, I know Carrie pretty well. We interface. I've had Carrie on, and I knew it was them. But there's another one. It's trigonometry and Unsafe Space. They're both puns, or at least they're jokes about like these heavily wokeist terms, and so I kind of get them mixed up in my head. My stupid name is the voice of reason. It's just a stupid pun that makes me seem like I'm a pretentious little wannabe, which I'm fine with being, because that keeps the actual wannabes away. But I went on their channel, Unsafe Space, probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago. I had Carrie on about a year ago. I had a great conversation with her both times, and her co-host, whose name I can't think of right now. Let's see if they say it. Nope, they don't tell us his name. So I'm sorry. So I don't keep up with them, but they want to have me back on for one of their Friday live streams, and I hope that I can provide some content for them. I was on Christy Mayer's channel yesterday, and the live stream that we did last night will be on. Jeez Louise, man. This is why I'm not a serious person. Chrissy, I just want to really make sure that I pronounce her name correctly. Yeah, Chrissy Mayer, Mayr. She is a kind of a cherry blonde haired comic. She is from Long Island, and she whips out those A's in a way that I can't do right now. And we had a fun time, and that will be published tomorrow. Speaking of other channels, so I don't know the breadth and the extent of what the Unsafe Space YouTube channel covers, but I know that I get along with them, and that they are pursuing what they think is important to pursue in this space. That's total marketing speak, because they're my compatriots. So I can't be really necessarily specific if I had anything negative to say, and I have nothing negative to say. But even if I did, I wouldn't say it. Juan Carlos Barriga, thanks for your work. Okay, so Dale Adenick, and let me see if people can hear me. Nobody's whining. So, do I play video games? If so, what type? So, video games are a nice respite for me. And I had a really strong connection to one video game in 2017. So 14 years ago, I kind of got really dove really deep into a video game. And then I pulled myself out of that video game. And since then I've had like video games around, and that's something that I do on occasion. And on occasion I do it too much. There's this gaming console called the PlayStation 4 that I picked up in 2018, the end of 2018. And I was playing through that catalog. I bought it late in the cycle of that particular platform. And so I got a lot of the games for cheap. And I enjoyed several of those games. I enjoyed Persona 5. Well, I mean, a lot of these games are huge time sinks. So I have to say that I don't recommend that you sink your time and your imagination into video games. But, do as I say, not as I do. Play Persona 5. It's like a 120-hour game or something like that. It took forever. It just went on and on and on. But the aesthetics of it were great. The music was great. There was a couple levels. You can't turn off the music in it, or you have to like subscribe to like Podstar or whatever, Spotify or whatever, to like get other music in there. So there was one level where I really didn't like the music, and it was really annoying me. But other than that, that was a really good game. I really enjoyed that game. And there's several other games that I really enjoy. Yuka's Island Express is probably my favorite game of the PlayStation 4 era. I think it's Yuka or Yuko's Island Express, but I know if you own a PlayStation, you can look in Island Express, and that frequently goes on sale for like $5 or $7. And it's just like this pinball game, and the music's great, and the physics are wonderful. It's just this roly-poly on this island filled with like these other creatures like ladybugs and worms and snails and stuff. And you just kind of like, you fly around and stuff. Like it was a perfect game. Right now I'm playing through a Yakuza game, which is the latest Yakuza game called Like a Dragon. For some reason, I was able to purchase a PlayStation 5, which is their new video game. Well, it's almost a year old, but it was really difficult for that to sell well, or for them to produce enough to supply the demand. And somehow I lucked out. I like logged into Walmart and I tippy typed out, and I got it. And then they messed up the order, so they sent me a free upgrade, and then FedEx lost it in the mail. It was this whole ordeal, so I got like this upgrade and stuff. And so I have the newer video console, but there's very few games on this PlayStation 5, and I'm playing through Like a Dragon, which is a Yakuza game, which is a Japanese gangster video game. And in Like a Dragon, the main character is affable and innocent, and has this really, he's just got a really clean, naive heart, and it's great to hang around with him. And he's always declaring friendship of things, and then he beats up people, because he's a Yakuza, and he's just kind of we're working our way through the underground, And I think that eventually he's going to become some sort of mob boss, but I'm only, I think, about 40% of the way through the game. And the game mechanics are kind of interesting. It's really a laid back game. So I play it for about half an hour at night. I also played this other video game that is a PlayStation 5 exclusive called Returnal, which is a roguelike, which means that once you die, you have to start over. And I got really into that game for a couple weeks. And I got about halfway through the game and I reached a wall in the game. But it's a very fast paced game and it's a shooter. And it's a jump and run and shoot kind of thing. And there's something about it that they really nailed. And I really enjoyed that for a while, but I needed to take a break because I just reached this difficulty wall in that. So right now I'm playing through Like a Dragon. And there's probably other video games that I can talk about. So maybe I'll return to that at a later time. Again, this is Benjamin Boyce, and welcome to the Missing in Action Multiple Martial Arts Mamma Mia Ask Me Anything, or the MIA, MMA, MAMA, MIA, AMA. I should have had that memorized, but I just made it up before. I couldn't, I was sitting in front of the screen. You guys, do you understand what I do? I interview people or I want to do a live stream. And before I can press send, I have to think of a title. So I'll sit here for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So I won't publish a thing until I get the right title, right? Speaking of titles, there was this really precious story. I probably shouldn't talk about it, but there was unintentional plagiarism with the number one YouTuber in my domain. We happened to think of the same title independently about the same interview subject, and he published his 3 months after mine, and I brought that to his attention, and he was really sweet about it. He's like, I'm sorry about that. And we had a little back and forth, which warmed my heart because I really deeply admire that man. So that is enough about that title drama, at least for now, because I don't want to broach confidences or anything like that. But I did make a public statement about my title, the same exact title for the same exact guest. It was just really weird. And I was a little snarky to this guy that I admire very much. I was kind of snarky down. And I think he understood that I was being humorous, but you never know. Anyhow, so that is enough about titling. So anyway, so I was sitting here and I kept on getting all these phone calls. And I don't really get phone calls, but all these people needed to talk to me. I'm like, what do I name this thing? What do I name this thing? And then I was just like, okay. And then I just thought of that. So that's what it is. Desert Runner. Super chat, $5. Thank you so much. Ben, you should go on PSA, or public special announcement. What is a PSA? Public service announcement, sitch, or the public service announcement situation, and Friended Forever's Sunday stream. Your interview with Catherine Deves was great. Things are nuts here. Wait, here? There. Oh, are you there? Are you there? Are you in Australia? This is totally out of context, so I don't know what this is actually about, but like one of the news channels in Australia like published that the government is now allowing debuting new freedoms for Australians who are vaccinated. So the government is rolling out freedoms. It's just so weird. It's so crazy. So I wonder if that's what you're talking about. I wonder if you're talking about Australia, but I don't know exactly the full story about that. And I know that PSA Sitch is in LA, or he was last time I spoke with him, and Friended Forever. He seems like some guy in the Midwest, but I don't actually know where he is. So I'm pretty sure they're neither in Australia. But Catherine Deves is, and what we spoke about with Catherine Deves, we spoke about the erosion of sex-based rights, specifically for women and for parents to decide on, to be involved in their child's medical care if that medical care happens to infringe upon this thing called gender ideology. And that, I think it was Victoria government is instituting some rather draconian laws within their state, and I spoke with Catherine Deves about that. But there's other things that Australia is doing that's quizzical to an American, but there's all these cultural differences, right? Not every place is America. Not every place thinks that freedom is a natural right. Some places think that it's actually, a privilege or an entitlement that's gifted them from their government bodies and from their powerful structures overhead. And I understand that, and I don't want to bag on anybody who accepts that way of living. So it's just kind of alien to me. Because I have this thing about like really wanting to flip off authority as an American. So there's that. But to harken back to what Grace Zeman said, yeah, PSA and PSA Sitch and Friended Forever, they speak for hours every Sunday. Like it's like 4 or 5 hours. I came on one of their streams for about half an hour. They just kept on going. They kept on going. I don't know if I have that kind of stamina. I need to work on being more interesting. Okay. So, there's all these, everybody's having a talk. So I'm just going to look for a question mark. Do I feel old yet? 2014 is 17 years ago. No, 2007. Did I do the math wrong? It was 2007, which is 14 years ago. But did I mess that up? Did I say 2014 is 17 years ago? Because that would be wrong. And yes, I do feel old yet. So thank you for retroactively. Do you play an instrument? Yeah, I have a guitar around here. I have a couple of, LH asks, do you play an instrument? I have produced 2 children's albums. I produced 3, but the third one I was depressed, so I yanked it off the internet, but you could probably still find it. But I'm just called Benjamin, and one's called Scariously, and the other is called Rainy Day Ladybug. And they should be free on the internet if you guys want to check them out. They are benjamin.bandcamp.com. They are, let me see if I can pin this. My children's albums are super lo-fi. They're created in this thing called Garage Band with, guitars and, harmonicas and banjos and stuff like that. And they're just songs that I made up on the playground, and they should be free. And I think I haven't been able to listen to them for a while. There's some good songs though, in them. I think it's pretty clever, and I would like to go back and reproduce it, but it's kind of needs to be imperfect. It kind of needs to be just like you're sitting and, at nap time and just some guys strumming a guitar. So yeah, I have learned instruments insofar as they've enabled me to create content. But I have not played them that much. But if you kind of look through, one of my playlists has a list of songs. I have some super sad songs, just like sad white boy songs, which is a genre. And they're there. I think they're clever. They're not the best produced, and I'm the best vocalist. But yeah, I do play, I do know a certain level of guitar work, but not terribly much. Chad Michael, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for all the great conversations and for your thoughtful opinions. Thank you so much. You're way braver than I am. It is hard to resist religions when you need a job and an income. Cheers. Especially when the religions control everything. Yeah, well, thank you for supporting me. Everybody, thank you, everybody, for supporting me and allowing me to, do this as much as I do. And on that note, I have had a lot of conversations, and that's kind of what I've decided to do with my channel for the past 6 months. I think it was since before Ramadan, which was in May, right? Ramadan was in May, I think. So May, June, July, August. So like 5 months. I've mostly been doing an interview every other day. And it's not necessarily negatively impacting my channel. So I'm going to keep on doing that. But there's also other content that I could be making that's just more about me analyzing different things. Upon which topic, I could talk a little bit about Twitter, but even that's like, why even talk about this? People just react to things. It's really interesting. I mean, I could do videos of me getting in trouble on Twitter because I think they're kind of entertaining. There was one political cartoon about a woman in Florida, if I recall correctly, and it was a political cartoon, so she was made out to be ugly on the inside and on the out. And somebody said that this was very sexist. And it was the first thing in the morning, and I literally said, "I'm sorry to ask. I haven't had my coffee yet. I don't see the sexism here. I don't see how this is sexist." And people just jumped on me. Like, how dare you ask that question? How dare you? And they started calling me a communist and started calling me like I'm not even a journalist. I write for Mad Magazine, which I'm fine with. Right. But people got really upset. I'm like, I was just trying to figure out what's sexist about this thing because it's a political cartoon. And a couple of people actually engaged me in good faith and, tried to point out, where this was being sexist about calling her beautiful on the inside and ugly on the inside. But I'm like, the whole cartoon was premised on a cosmopolitan advertisement. Like the idea of the cartoon was this woman who's this bad person, according to the left, was, taking money and being a bad person because she's on the right in Florida. And it was just drawn like she was on the cover of a cosmopolitan magazine, which I thought was, from a certain point of view, it's political parody. So everything's going to be exaggerated, especially the uglier features. And then secondly, just the cosmopolitan magazine allows the writer to do a bunch of writing prompts and make a bunch of punches after this woman. And one of the comments among all these things was about being beautiful on the outside. Doesn't matter how much work you do to be beautiful on the outside, you still are ugly. You can still be ugly on the end, or something like that. And people pointed out that as sexist. I'm like, well, it's the writing prompt of the Cosmopolitan magazine that they talk about beauty. Like, it's within the writing prompt. And people, it was just really weird because I was standing against this narrative, and apparently it was a bunch of people on the right this time that came after me and just got really upset with me about, just asking these questions and then putting out my reasoning for that and saying, okay, I did this like mini thread about the caricature or the political cartoon, and I showed the last 4 presidents. I didn't do Biden, but did I do Biden? I did Clinton, Obama, George W. Bush, and Trump. And I showed 4 pictures of these 4 different presidents. And I pointed out that would you call only one of these caricatures racist? Would you only think of the Obama caricature as racist? I guess you could think of it that way because the black race or blacks within America have been caricatures. And so like their lips and different features have been exploded, but his features are just exploded. But same with Clinton's got this huge nose, and Trump's got super orange skin and this weird mouth, and the other president, George W. Bush with like those huge ears, and he's been compared to a monkey. And it's just interesting that Trump was the one president whose skin color, more than any of the rest, was used as a point of being derogatory against him. Like, if you just start talking about these markers as political parody and somehow being sexist or racist, you're missing the point of parody. If you start to try to enforce propriety on political cartoons and caricatures, you're misunderstanding the genre. You're misunderstanding the genre. Some other people said that particular cartoon was about a disparate treatment, that she was being put down because she's female. I didn't see that in the cartoon, aside from the fact that the cartoon was using, this female trope of the Cosmopolitan magazine, which in and of itself is not in and of itself sexist. To point out something is different based on sex is not necessarily sexist, though you can make an argument for that. So it's just interesting that the right, I got all these weird messages in my inbox, like, you must have been beaten up as a child, and like a bunch of clown emojis and stuff. I'm like, I was just asking questions. Like, are you guys really idiotic? It's weird because I keep on getting in trouble on Twitter for people totally misreading me. So it's kind of interesting to go through that. And then last night I took a shot at my team, the anti-woke team, because there's this one very active Twitter account called Libs of TikTok that posts these egregiously woke TikTok screeds. And some of them are from actual teachers doing some really shifty stuff or just using the teaching platform to indoctrinate children. And the other half of them are just like these teenagers just going on these weird gender things. And my whole timeline was just people making fun of or like, using those people as just grist for the mill. Like, we're just going to be anti-woke for the sake of being anti-woke. And we're going to have all these reflexive reactions to this certain stimulus. And I just called it porn. I said, this is just porn for people who get off on feeling superior to confused teens, right? Which was not completely true, because there's these other extenuating circumstances, and not everybody that's being posted by that is a teenager. But I was trying to call out the matter of the fact that we are that Pavlovian. We're ingraining a certain reflex into ourselves towards a certain stimulus over and over and over again. The problem with porn is not, well, there's a bunch of problems with porn, but just the consumption of porn, the basic, and this is Nietzschean. So the problem of any drug, to get Nietzschean, and I think he's talking about alcohol in this one quote, and I've kept this quote with me for a really long time. It's not the act, but the stupid repetition. It's not the fact that you are being outraged about something or standing up or calling out this behavior as stupid and as debilitating to society. That's a good thing. But the being caught in the repetition of doing that over and over and over, and I just saw people going over and over and over and over and over again. So I kind of called out my side, and I got a little bit of pushback. I mean, most people kind of understood me for who I am, and we did some arguments about that. But, it's just important for us to be aware of what we're doing. I was just trying to say that. And that goes back into my channel. Like, do I want to spend all my time digging up all these woke people and analyzing their behavior and showing how this college is doing that, and this teenager said that thing, and this mob went down that street? I can do that. That's a viable road towards, I guess, self-perpetuated, bland content that a certain large portion of people want to be plugged into. And I don't denigrate you. If that's what you want to watch, go ahead and watch that. But if you're getting stuck in just regurgitating that behavior, not really critically analyzing that, and furthermore, not actually changing the people that you're holding up to ridicule. It's one thing for a teacher to, shove this gender ideology down into the heads of 4-year-olds. I'm totally against that. And I'm not for these tyrannical, narcissistic teenagers going on these gender screeds. I'm not for any of that. But especially with the teenagers is, a lot of people in the comments say, we need to bring back bullying, right? A lot of people say that. We need to bring back bullying. Shove these kids into lockers, right? Like, okay, if that happened to you and it changed your behavior, that was probably 4 or 5 kids, maybe 6 or 7 kids at your high school did that to you. Is it the same exact thing? Is that the same thing as 14,000 people calling you out on the internet? Furthermore, a bunch of adults doing that to you. Is that at all symmetrical at all? Does that actually help those people? Does it not alienate them further? Those people, especially those kids that are performing this certain brand of gender ideology on the internet, they're doing nothing but looking for attention. And you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to judge you. I don't like being judged for my behavior. I'm called out constantly. I was called out for using the word porn. To call it porn, people like, porn is about the exploitation of women, not young girls screeching about gender on the internet. I'm like, well, it's kind of the same thing. In a certain respect, OnlyFans and TikTok are kind of servicing a certain sort of circuit in the brain, which has to do with validation and attention. It's all there. It's all these mechanisms. But if we're not doing it ethically, if we're not considering the stimulus and the reaction to our stimulus, then we're just robots. Then we just become those NPCs, right? That's all we do. And so it needs to be challenged, even though I'm guilty of that too. So I don't want to feel or come across at all as superior. I don't want to do that. But it just reflects back onto, well, what kind of content that I could create on my channel that would engage other people, be valuable to them, be saucy and spicy enough to get those views, to get that algorithm to pick it up, something that's kind of courts controversy just enough to get the eyeballs on it. But by the time the eyeballs leave, they have something tangible. They feel more enriched. They feel more human. They feel more connected to humanity. They feel more hope for humanity, right? And I think that the interviews are the right way to do that, though they are long and they kind of squash my content in a way that I don't really mind because it weeds out people that don't have the attention span to deal with humanity at the level that I want to deal with humanity, right? So I could do a clips channel, and I should, and I could get back to those 10-minute videos analyzing some sort of cultural thing, and I will. Which brings me back to the last thing that I'll talk about before getting back to the chat, and the real reason why I began this perhaps falsely titled, Missing in Action, Minuscule Martial Arts, Mamma Mia, Ask Me Anything, or I have to do it again, Miammamamamiaama live stream right now, is that I finally resurrected my my camera, my fancy look at that bokeh. Do you see that bokeh? You see that bokeh? So I had a nice camera, but it started acting up. And so for about the past year, I've been using my webcam principally, which is a pretty nice webcam on this particular machine. But I can't control the freaking, the exposure. So you'll see on all my videos, I like this black background. And now with the fancy camera, I can get back to the green screen. I don't want to ruin things by showing you guys the green screen. But because I couldn't stabilize the what I just call it, the exposure, it would get brighter and darker and brighter and darker, and so I couldn't use the green screen because the green screen would always come in and out, and on my face I'm always going black and white and black and white. So I'm like, it's kind of time to get back and be a little bit more professional. So I found a reasonably priced, decent camera, and I plugged it in, and here we are right now. There's some color corrections that I could do. There's too much detail. Look at how splotchy I am. There's too much detail, but I think it's the next level. I kind of enjoy it. Let me know what you guys think. That was a screed. Adam friended. I'm looking for a question. Could I play an ABBA song in theory? Do you guys ever get ABBA and the Bee Gees mixed up? Because I don't know that many. I know Ace of Base. It's kind of like ABBA, right? 90s ABBA. We're probably twice as far away from Ace's Base as Ace's Base was away from ABBA's heyday. When was ABBA's heyday? 76, 78? I'll have to look that up. ABBA on the charts. When was ABBA on the charts? ABBA. Let's look it up. So ABBA, BBA, on the charts when? 1977. So Ace of Base on the charts. Let's look at that. Ace of Base on the charts. Ace of Base. 1994. So that is, oh God, we're going to do this difficult math proper thing. That's 17 years, right? So that's 17 years between when ABBA peaked and when Ace of Base peaked, and that's 17 years, and then we're almost 30 years away, right? No, we can't be 30 years away. We are. 1994, 2004, 2014. We're almost 30 years away, so we're 27 years away. So I was almost right. We're almost twice as far away from ABBA, from Ace's Base, than Ace of Base is from ABBA. Wasn't that a cool guess? Yeah, but I saw the sign, and it opened up my mind. I saw the sign. Life is demanding without understanding. I saw the sign, and I'm all my son, all mine. No one's gonna drag you up. Get into the laundry where you belong. But where do you belong? So that's as close as ABBA I'm gonna get. I don't know why they're both similar in my head. I think they're both from the relatively same country, or similar. Common Cure. Will you be doing any videos delving into Black's ways of knowing? I'm still trying to wrap my head around the utility of this racialized framework. Well, the problem with that framework is that not all Black people agree with that framework. So if you speak with somebody like the professor that I have on. Why am I having such a hard time? Eric Smith. He was in that photo with James and Wokel that's floating around, and that Nerd Force 13. Also, I have Wilfred Riley on my show. I was going to publish that today, but I'm going to publish it tomorrow. I have to come up with the title, and I'm not going to like have you guys watch me come up with the title. Like that's like the most boring sort of sausage to watch be made. But Eric Smith, he's black, and Wilfred Riley, they're both black. They have no truck of this black ways of knowing. So to try to not evade your question, but the question before that question about delving into black ways of knowing is that what is that black way of knowing? Who is using that black way of knowing? And what do they mean by black in that black way of knowing? And what is the utility of that for them? Not for everybody else, but for them specifically. And is it viable outside of their use of that? I would think that black ways of knowing, quote unquote, are a political tool to game discourse, to tilt it in the direction of those who claim to have black ways of knowing, and to put them outside of argumentation, outside of criticism. But because they're outside of argumentation, outside of criticism, all they can do is gain power and then tell everybody what to do. They can't produce anything because nobody can verify if what they want to do with their black ways of knowing will actually add up into something that is actually viable in the real world. Now, there's probably some sort of Marxist socialism baked into that black way of knowing. Who knows? You'd have to look into whoever is ascribing that ideal and what would be the system that is this black way of knowing that exerts its epistemology onto the world. You'd really have to know. So videos on that again. So it's just a question of, do I want to go through those things, or can I have people on that to go through that themselves? Because to me, outside of the political process of gaining power, so much of what we call woke dogma or doctrine is not actually viable. It's not creative. It doesn't do anything other than rearrange a certain field of discourse. And the discourse in and of itself doesn't produce anything but more discourse. It doesn't translate. Does a black way of knowing turn into an iPhone? Here's the serious question about that. And I'm using black way of knowing. This language sounds racist to me. And even though I've been speaking about this stuff for 4 years and have been enmeshed in it for 7 or 8 years now because I was at Evergreen, it doesn't feel right for me to think this way. But this is what they call that, this black way of knowing. How would a black way of knowing arrive at an iPhone? Let's not even go there. How would a black way of knowing arrive at glasses? How would you create glasses, lenses, that are prescribed to my specific eyeballs through black ways of knowing? And would that, if you were able to show how a black way of knowing translated into these, and then you could measure it up to the opposite of a black way of knowing, and who knows what that would be called, but if you can measure that up, which one is more efficient? But efficiency is a opposite of black way of knowing, right? So you can't even, it separates itself from any sort of critique or criticism, and therefore it's basically useless outside of the moment of its deployment to gain power. And anybody who ascribes to that is not going to accept your argument or understanding of it, because anything that would question a black way of knowing is not a black way of knowing. I can tell you that. There are certain forms of knowing or ways of knowing that invite critique, that run towards critique, and that seek to use critique to refine itself. And every instance that I've come across of this so-called black way of knowing is never self-reflexive. It's always a critique of society or systemic things, something outside of itself. It's a black box, right? So it doesn't matter what it is in and of itself outside of its use and what it can produce. And if it can't produce anything, or if it can produce something, but you can't see if that's better or worse than any other way of getting there, knowing something, then what's its use? If you can go into a cultural sphere and say a black way of knowing is how a body moves through space, and you can start to pull on hip hop. I don't mean to go here. This is just me thinking through some way of making this viable. Let's just say you have two picnics on the same block, and on the east side of the block, there is a white picnic, and on the west side of the block, the other side of the block, is a black picnic. And the way that those two communities communicate, their body language, their volume level, their food, and how they eat, and all the different components of how that picnic goes on, if you construe that as a black way of knowing and a white way of knowing, then you never have to really compare them head to head. Other than you can say some subjective measurement about who feels more close. Is there which group is more depressed? Which group is poorer? And then you say, well, this group is poorer, but they're more happy. This group is richer, but they're more isolated. Would you actually have the honesty to say, well, do we want money? Do we want an even amount of happiness and an even amount of money? Or do we want all the money and all the happiness? And can you have both? Right? I'm just saying that would be a thought experiment culturally that would make a black way of knowing so-called salient in a way that wouldn't reduce it to a purely, scientific materialistic standpoint. But without that scientific materialistic standpoint, you're always just going to be kind of walking through the weeds of that, in my humble opinion. Hopefully that was satisfactory. Oh, cyanide. My Pink Floyd phase is almost done. And I'll get to your question. What about Clubhouse still on it? Cyanide. And I want to tell this story because cyanide sounds like Sinead in my head. And Sinead reminds me of Sinead O'Connor, who's Irish. And apparently there's this thing called Irish shopping sadness. There's this Irish condition of getting sad in grocery stores. Sometimes debilitatingly sad, and something that I experience. And then I hear that somebody else that experienced it says that it's an Irish thing, and I'm Irish. So Irish shopping sadness. I kind of came up with that. But I asked on Twitter if people get sad in the supermarket, and an amazing amount, I'm like, this is just a weird thing. I get sad about 3/4 of the way through a grocery store. I just start feeling sad, not about anything specifically. I just start feeling sad. And it's always happened to me since I was a kid. And so many people responded, yeah, I have that too. A lot of people are like, what's going on here? Like, no, I never had food as a kid. So I'm always happy when I'm in the grocery store, which is everything. This is all lived experience. This is just a way of knowing grocery store. This is the Irish way of knowing a grocery store is to get sad into it. I'm sure it's not just specifically Irish, but I like the phrase Irish shopping sadness. That's just something cool. If I hadn't named this stream something as cool as the mixed martial arts missing in action, Mamma Mia, ask me anything, it would probably be Irish shopping sadness. Anyways, Sinead's Irish, and Sinead sang in this particular performance of Roger Waters' The Wall. This is Pink Floyd paraphernalia. So Roger Waters and Pink Floyd produced this double album called The Wall, which is actually pretty good. There's a lot of good stuff in it, though it kind of edges on, kind of like Ouroboros, kind of wallowing in your own pity and blaming everything else on the world. That's a viable way of telling a story about that particular person. So it's got some narrative flaws, or it's kind of like a downer and stuff, but there's actually a lot of good music in there, and the construction's great. And they went through and they built this double album. It was this huge concept album, and they wanted to make a movie and this stage show. And so they staged this whole show, and you can go on YouTube if you geek out about Pink Floyd. You can actually find out a lot because they put a lot of work in this. Roger Waters, David Gilmour, Richard Wright, and Paul? No. Richard Wright. Who's the drummer? Shoot, I'm really sorry, drummer guy. Anyways, so Roger Waters and David Gilmour they were the creative team behind that. But they created this wall. But in I think it was 90 or 91, Roger Waters, who had left the band, there was all this politics and stuff. He hadn't been in the band for like 10 years, 15 years, whatever. He staged the entire album at the Berlin Wall. And it was this star-studded cast, and they performed it at night, and there was all these problems with electrical interference and stuff. So the video that you can find on YouTube, and it's pretty potato quality. I don't know if there is, I haven't looked for it, but I don't know if there is like a restored version of that performance on it. But they played the whole album with all these different stars. They had Bryan Adams of all people. and a lot of other people whose names I can't remember. I have such a hard time with names. But Sinead O'Connor did that Mother song. And it was really something else. It was really special. That concert's actually really special. And I was just thinking, Cyanide, made me think of Sinead, who's just singing this song. And it was really like, emotionally impactful. And apparently she refused to redo it because they had electrical problems during the official show. And Roger Waters, said some nasty things about her, and she said some nasty things about him, which is just a pattern in his life, apparently. So the version that you see on the film that you can find, the Wall, Berlin Wall, is the practice thing for that. So that's just something that I thought, and I'm kind of wrapping up my Pink Floyd summer. I ate so much homemade Caesar salad and listened to so much Pink Floyd this summer. That was basically what I did this summer. That's basically all I did this summer. What about Clubhouse? Still on it. I got off that again when I started doing interviews every other day just prior to Ramadan, and I tried to get back on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is this audio-only app where you're just in all of these chat rooms, and I got rather into it for about 6 weeks or something, and I took a break, and then when I went back to look on it, I got immediately incredibly anxious about it. And I was thinking about, why do I not want to be on there anymore? There's no control over my content. Anybody could be recording me. Anybody could, actually, one thing that would happen over and over and over again, somebody would ask me a question and I'd start explaining myself and somebody else would interrupt me. So it was very rare that I don't have that bullish nature to exert myself. So I'd be put on the spot and then taken off the spot, and it created a lot of frustration unless I was hosting the room. But it seemed like I was putting so much time into this stuff. I can't control my content. Anybody could steamroll me about anything. Anybody can record me, take me out of context, upload me. And there's a lot of really, really just stressful activity on that with some of the stuff that I would hear on there was just really intense and stressful. And just the whole thing was just a stressful thing. I'm like, why do I want to do something that's stressful and that I can't actually speak my opinion, right? Only under certain circumstances can I do that. And I have to wait hours. I would have to listen to a conversation. This eventually what I would do, the best thing that I could do for the in those rooms would listen to everybody else for 2 hours and then finally figure out that one thing to ask, right? Or that one thing to say. And then the conversation would go on. So, I could be a part of the community and probably people like me. I know that some people like me and some people want me back on there, but it would just take so much time to do like that one thing. I'm like, why don't I have people on my channel that I can ask things directly? I could just produce this myself and then I can share it with everybody else. I control it. I can put it where I want to do. I'm responsible to that person in a face-to-face manner. So Clubhouse, every once in a while I think about going back, but as soon as I open the thing, I'm like, everybody's going to see me. Everybody's going to want to talk to me. I'm going to be put on the spot. And as soon as I start getting comfortable, I'll have to listen to everybody else for 2.5 hours. And I'm fine with that. There was amazing conversations. I got a lot out of the conversations that I listened to, right? But being known, when I'm in a room being known, I don't like that. When I'm an unknown, I can just there's no stress because there's no performance there. Nobody will recognize me, right? So there's just this, I'm in this weird zone with being known enough to have stress on the internet, right? And they say that after you get a certain amount of followers, the game starts to change. And it's only been over the last 6 months or so that the game has begun to change for me. Specifically on Twitter, I'm getting to a place, I got some weird amount of followers, they're called. They're I have 34,000. I don't know why 34,000 people follow me, but I just keep on getting recommended and people like my pith, right? But because I have that number attached to my name, people perceive me as somebody with power or status. And when they perceive you as having status, some people will respect you, but some people will target you too, right? And it's just it's kind of there's a trade-off, and I'm fine with being known enough among certain circles to be able to, speak to people. And when I reach out to people for an interview, I'm like, here I am, like, want to interview me. There's a likelihood that they already know of me or they found me, which is good. And if not, then they can look on my social media and say, well, this guy's got combined between Twitter and YouTube, 10,000, 100,000 people. So he must be doing something right or something wrong, which would lead me to, consider for more than a moment speaking with him. So it's good for clout and stuff, but the game starts to change and people start taking you seriously in the wrong way. I don't know, but I don't mean to complain. It's just a part of the game. It's stupid. Especially. What's a channer? 4chan? Okay, wait. Whoa, you guys are way in the past. Okay, here we go. Super chat. Psychat. Sorry if you wrote that a long time ago. I don't know when you wrote that. Let me have a drink. That's really nice. That's really nice. You bought me a beer and he said something nice to me. This is like being in a bar that I want to be in. Psychet. Social media is a giant slam pit. And you're the guy sitting on the speaker making sense of it all. I'm like, oh man. Maybe that's why my ears feel like they're bleeding all the time. Thank you. That's really sweet of you. Thank you. Tommy. Oh, no, you're not Wilfred Riley. You're Tommy Riley. Super chat of a very generous amount. Thank you so much. Hey, Ben, would you consider having conversation with Jason Bermas? Jason Bermas. He is one of the producers for Loose Change. Jason Bermas. Loose Change. To highlight the impact of 9/11 and how society changed and how we forgot about that traumatic event. Love the channel. Thank you. I feel like Loose Change. I feel like the algorithm itself actually recommended that to me. Like there was some video that went through my YouTube feed about post 9/11 life. Yeah. So yeah, I'll look into that. That sounds like some good conversation. It sounds like this guy is somebody to talk to about that. I don't want to talk about what's going on in the Middle East, but I'm trying to get somebody on the channel who knows, and it hasn't been easy to find somebody. I'm trying to look for the right person that could give a human-sized narrative about what's going on. That, of course, will be human-sized, so it won't be worldwide and will have, its own narrow conceptions of it, but hopefully it will be rich enough for people to kind of be more connected to what's going on over there, rather than just having this political thing from thousands of miles away or seeing something horrific and reacting to something that's still thousands of miles away, potentially. If there's anybody in that region that happens to be listening to the live stream, I hope you're safe. God watch over you. Or if you're close to there, I hope you're safe. God watch over you. But I want to bring the humanity for that. So hopefully I can bring on somebody who will be able to talk to that. But that goes to say that 9/11, what's going on right now is directly related to 9/11. Of course, right? I remember when we went to war, I'm like, what the heck? Like, I was so pissed off. Post 9/11, just the way that America reacted to that. Well, the way that the people who control the cathedral, whatever you want to call it, whoever manages America and her assets, the way that they handled foreign relations post 9/11, that put me up in arms. And then, Afghanistan, it wasn't even that big of a deal. Like, oh yeah, we're going to war in Afghanistan. I just felt like horrible. I'm like, why are we going to war? Is there no other way for us to do this? But I don't know it, and nobody really spoke about it. And then the Iraq thing came, and that was a whole thing. And people were protesting. I tried to protest that stuff. I was of the age where I would have been protesting, but everybody was just rounded up and silenced. It was just like, why? Politics is a complete sham. It's just a bunch of talking heads, a bunch of op-eds. That's all this stuff is. And people like me, if you look at it one way and another way, I have no power over here, but basically because of where I am in my life and in the world, I don't have to worry about it. Right? I can just kind of live my life and try to figure out my life, right? Which is, humbling in a way, but it's true. You can't care about everything that's happening everywhere. You have to target your care. You have to target your empathy. If you're going around feeling empathy for everything, you're going to drain yourself and you're going to be taken advantage of, like we see with a lot of the stuff that someone earlier on called a religion. These things hijack you. Your imagination hijacks you. So I want to find somebody who's connected to what's happening in Afghanistan to connect us to that in a way. Hopefully. Or I can just get a war hawk on to talk about all the reasons why we should just go back to war again. I don't know. Whatever. Pardon me. Wow. I spoke for an hour, 55 minutes. Did I answer enough questions in this Missing in Action Mixed Martial Arts Mamma Mia? Ask me anything, or Miammamamamiaama. I'm getting better at it, but I still mispronounce the pronunciation. Oh, you want me to use the beauty filter to get rid of these splotches? I don't have a beauty filter on this, but I'll have to figure that out because I am way too splotchy. That's the cool thing about low res, potato res. Everybody looks like a potato. It's like, hey, French fries are great. But now I'm like, it was like this weird kind of like splotchy, aging apple. I don't know what color I am. I have this pale thing, but then like this color on top of it, and then these splotchiness. So I don't know if there's a filter for that. But I do look like an aging fruit. Feel old yet? Super chat, Puff Ball. The online right wing are active participants in the culture war, PSYOP, and they become more demoralizing and cruel by the day. And that is what I don't want to become. I don't want to become more and more demoralized and cruel by the day. I don't want to do that. I want to do good in this world and feel marginally okay while I do it. And if one of those two things is off, if I feel good, but I'm doing bad, or if I'm doing good, but I feel bad, then there's some sort of tweaks that I can do in my own setup to fix that. And there's a certain amount of habituated, that was the word I was looking for, behavior in the anti-woke that is kind of reactionary. It's like, well, what are you actually doing? And yeah, call this stuff out. Yeah, we have to call this stuff out. We have to call this stuff out. But like, it's basically just slacktivism if you're not actually doing something and reaching out to those people. And I'm not judging you if you are doing that and you've earned to bitch about a 17-year-old gender fluid unicycle sexuality person. And you're like, I'm going to go and I'm going to make fun of this person. And I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm going to go help somebody, an older person. I'm going to like shuffle some documents back and forth between Medicaid and this older person and do something real in the world. Wouldn't that be cool if we had to earn our right to bitch on the internet? Then you'd have a gated institution. Okay, this is the thing. The only way for that to be viable is that if you listen to yourself and you're like, I'm kind of turning into a bitch because I'm bitching so much, that's becoming my identity. Then internally you're like, I need to do something good for people or make somebody laugh, right? Hopefully more and more people are just aware of what the content that they're consuming and producing is doing to their soul and other souls. And that works with outrage porn. It works for porn. It works for war porn. It works for war-torn scorn, horn porn, or whatever. You just have to be aware. Just be aware. Just be aware. Be aware. Sorry if I'm lecturing. Super chat, 10 euro. Francisco Dominguez. I really liked your interviews. It allows for a much-needed, nuanced view into the hot-button issues. I think this is the kind of conversations that will bring sanity back. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Thank you for the support and the encouragement. Somebody has a screaming thing. There was a teen ABBA cover group in Sweden relaunching them from their youth, for their youth. Wow, you guys are back on the ABBA. I'm way behind on this chat. Talk about a missing in action. Mixed martial arts, Mamma Mia. Ask Me Anything. With Benjamin Boyce, your host. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing good. Summer's almost over. It's been very chill here. We had a couple of intense heat waves, but it's mostly been around 77, which is a little sad, but it's okay. Whatever. I would like, kind of like some 80s weather, and we didn't get quite enough of that, but whatever. It's done. It's over. Here comes the fall. From Justin Vincent, thanks for the super chat. Any plans to cover the Olympia Waldorf drama? Olympia Waldorf. An accusation of transphobia snowballed. Multiple teachers left the school and a board member resigned. Whoa, that sounds like a story. Is that Olympia, the city of Olympia? I'll look it up. I won't be able to find the answer to this, but I will look into that. That sounds cool if I can get primary sources on the channel. That sounds like an interesting story. Mamma mia, here I go again. My, I'm gonna fish you. On race, I have to recommend The Glenn Show. Yeah, let's shout out for Glenn and John McWhorter, Blogging Heads and Substack. They are champs. Thanks for the support, Howard. Glenn Lowry and John McWhorter are the men. They are the men. They are great folk. Great men. They might have something to say about Black Waves of Knowing, but I don't see either of them trucking with it. They might have something clever to say. We're wrapping up. My voice is feeling frayed. Oh, Return to Reason. Thank you. I'd be down with a Black Way of Knowing if what it knew was how to eliminate these insane epistemological cancers from our discourse. Face palm. Thanks for the support. Return to Reason. Click on Return to Reason's channel. He is a thinker like me. He's on ThinkSpot. Do you guys have locals too? But they interviewed me, him and his friend. It's got a cool name that I can't remember. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad. I should just have I need like a headphone. I'll have Grace Zeman, because she remembers everything. I'm like, what's that person's name? And then she can tell me. And I'll look smarter than how stupid I look. Deborah Breeden, thank you. youtube.be/capital W, small case R, capital E, 2, capital X, lowercase n, capital C, lowercase q, dash, capital K, lowercase g. Is this a Black Way of Knowing? In this program, I can't click it, but I don't think it deleted the comment. Oh, I can't watch that without vetting it on my channel. And plus, I couldn't be able to pump it through here. So we're going to have to look at that in post to see. Michael O, thanks for the chat, Deborah. Or is it Deborah? Super chat, $5. I just popped in, heard Black Way of Knowing. Wow, that feels like half an hour ago. And was instantly reminded that everything sucks. Okay. The Clash song Lost in Supermarket. We're getting towards wrapping up here. Oh, Nick Mason. Who's Nick Mason? Yes! We're back on Pink Floyd now. Yes, Nick Mason. I'm so sorry, Nick Mason. Yeah, he's the drummer. Yeah, Pink Floyd is pretty good. I have to say that Dark Side of the Moon, ultimately, you can't top that. It's just that's a whole other level. So it can't be your favorite because that's not even a Pink Floyd album. That's just something that happened. And Pink Floyd happened to do it. That, you can't say that that's your favorite album. But I'm going back through Metal again, which is their pre-Pink Floyd album, and I'm enjoying that. There's a couple songs that are a little too kind of 60s feeling, but there's a lot of cool sounds in that. And I like Wish You Were Here, but I listened to that too much. Oh, I'm going through Animals right now. Animals is the one I'm kind of listening to several times. And I got over my initial kind of like disliking of the negativity of it. Now I kind of understand it as, as this soundscape. And I have a couple of the live performances of it to compare and contrast with the studio version of that, but I do know that they're making like a 5.1. No, they have already made a 5.1 version of Animals, which is the album that they made after Wish You Were Here, which is the album they made after Dark Side of the Moon. But it's stuck in some sort of limbo, and Roger Waters is being a meanie to David Gilmour on the internet about it. There's all this drama. There's just infinite drama with Roger Waters for some reason. But yeah, so that's the album. And then I can't handle A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which is their, well, no, I said the Wall's got plus and minuses. The final cut, I kind of listened to it twice, and I almost got through it both times, but like it doesn't seem like a Pink Floyd album. That's a Roger Waters album. And then Momentary Lapse of Reason is a David Gilmour album, and it annoys me. It just annoys me. And then, what's The Division Bell? That annoys me too. Like, so I just don't want to think of those as Pink Floyd albums. Everything between, I guess, Clouds, and The Wall is what I consider Pink Floyd, or everything after the Syd Barrett stuff. So kind of metal, and then they did a couple of other albums. Those are the things that I consider Pink Floyd. Everything after The Wall is not Pink Floyd to me. So it doesn't count. So I don't subject myself to that. But I'm basically gone through that. Now I'm going to have to find another group to kind of study. I'm going to have to try to find another musical group, oeuvre, to study. And it's got to not be annoying. That's the problem with music. Most of it's so annoying. Deborah. Said Ashton must be in contact with his family. Emory University professor. Let me see if I have the required clout. Deborah, thank you for being so helpful and supportive at the same time. I'm very grateful for you, like, helping me and tipping me at the same time. It's like, it's very generous of you. So Said Ashton at Shan Emory. Okay, I'll look into him and see if I have the clout, and if he has, if he's in the place that he wants to talk about it. Somebody wants me to not be so picky. Hey, Liz. Okay, let's wrap this up for everybody. I'm just going to do these last couple of Snapchats or chapped snatches from my adoring fans, or at least tolerant supporters. Benjamin A. Boyce, could we call them outrage bucks? Yeah. You got to earn your outrage bucks. I like the interesting people and ideas on your channel. Thank you. Yeah, for every good thing you do in a day, you get one outrage buck, and you put it in your jar. And then for every mean thing that you want to say on the internet, you take it out of the jar. Well, that'd be nice. Nobody's going to do that. Pipe dreams. Benjamin Boyce, pipe dreams. You guys are great. I'm caught up on the live stream. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take a couple sips of beer, and if anything else pops into my mind, I think I caught you up on everything. Let me know how you guys look, how you guys like the camera. There's some color correction that I need to do. As you can tell, I drink 4 espressos a day and smoke 4 cigarettes a day. And that has a certain consequence upon a certain aspect of my features that you can see, the least important of which being this finger, but there's certain imperfections that come into the light, so to speak, that I'm a little kind of embarrassed about, but at the same time, it's like, I'm 45. I've been drinking espresso for 25 years now and smoking cigarettes for 26 years. What do you expect? What do you expect? I guess I can get some sort of bleach. That stuff hurts though. I guess I can do that stuff. But I should probably do that so I can be an awesome YouTube guy, like with perfect fucking orthodonty. I don't care about the shape of my teeth. Just the color of the bottom ones are They're really stained. Really stained. I'll try to, if I use the good camera, then I have to color that out, and that's just a pain. Because it does distract people, but maybe people don't care, or maybe the people who are distracted aren't paying attention to what they should do. And so I shouldn't. So I'm kind of like over that. I was really like, when I started the YouTube thing and I had that previous nice camera, I would always like go through extra lengths to color out that particular part of my body. Or just like do crazy colors in other parts of my body and like really lean into my eyes, and people would just like focus. Hey, my eyes are up here, guys. Right. But the problem with a good camera is that I'm splotchy, and it's evident that I drink 4 espressos and smoke four cigarettes a day. And by 4 espressos, I do long shots. So I do a big cup of coffee in the morning that's all espresso, but long shot espressos. That's just what I do. That's what I do. I'm not going to stop doing that. I do want to quit smoking, so I'm going to work on that. I've been smoking too much this summer. Among all the Pink Floyd and Caesar salad, it's been smoking. Bodie's good. Bodie, my yellow cat, has become, I haven't talked about him. He turned a year old on August 7th, approximately. We got him when he was 2 months old on October 7th. So his birthday is August 7th. And he has turned into a incredibly talkative cat. He comes into the room. He's got to talk to everybody. He's going on a project. He's just talking. He's just like going around. He's just like talking and stuff. But he's a snug bug. He needs his deep snug once a day. As the weather cools down, he'll probably be sleeping with me more. He hasn't been sleeping with me too much, but he'll sleep like near me, or in the same room, stuff. So it's just interesting. I haven't filmed any of him talking because he just runs in out of nowhere and he just starts talking to the rooms. Like, did you miss me? What's up? I found this creature over there, and then there was water park slide or mud thing or stream, whatever. Oh yeah, what are you doing? Bijou around? Bijou around? Where's everybody? And he's just shouting. You're like, what are you talking about, guy? You have no idea what he's talking about, but he's super vocal, but not in an annoying way. Every once in a while, he'll start like just expressing himself at 4 a.m. So that's just an interesting development about that particular creature in our lives, in all of our lives. And so far as you've been following my channel, Bodhi's part of our family here. And that's kind of the development that we've had with him. Bijou sleeps in the closet. Bijou does her Bijou thing. She still hisses at Bodhi. She's just whenever he comes near her, she just hisses at him. I don't think she necessarily like hates him or anything like that. Every once in a while, they're starting to sleep closer and closer together. So she's starting to, get used to him, but he's still very exuberant, and she likes complete control. And he's just very exuberant. He's a year old, prime of life, running around, really engaged, so she still kind of like keeps him at claw's distance, as the saying goes. So that's kind of what's happened on the home front. And what else is there to say? I got, talking about what's coming up next, I've interviewed Helen Joyce, who wrote this book, Trans, When Ideology Meets Reality. It's a very well written book. I interviewed her. I will publish that probably, I think, on Sunday. I interviewed a political science teacher who's rather based, as the kids say. And he's kind of a center-right guy. His name's Wilfred Riley. You can find him on Twitter. He's got like some sort of funky name, but Wilfred Riley. He's written 2 books, Hoaxed and Taboo, 10 Facts You Can't Talk About, and Hoaxed. And we talk about political science. And that will be dropping tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. He just kind of goes. And when it's my turn to ask a question, it was somebody went on one of my interviews just before I got on the stream. Somebody got on one of my interviews where I actually tried to get my guest to specify what she was talking about. And I really said, well, I just need, before I can understand what you're talking about with this patriarchy thing, could we please define these terms, especially because we were talking about postmodernism. So that particular interview, I was much more asking questions. I don't think I was too challenging, but I'm much more challenging in that one than I mostly am. And some random commenter came on. I don't think she's watched anything of mine. She's like, Benjamin just doesn't listen to his guests. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, if I could show you guys the waveforms of my interviews, it's like, for most of my interviews, it's like, there's like, the top one would be the interviewee. It's like waveform, waveform, waveform. And it's just like, flat line, question, flat line, question, flat line, question. It's like, you don't listen to your guests. I'm like, I think one thing that I probably do more than most people is listen to my guests, but I'm not going to make a point on it. It's just like, are you being ironic or not? I don't understand, but she was really serious. It came to light. She was really serious. This is weird. It's like, you don't know what people are going to say on the internet. You don't know how long it's been since they've had a meal. You don't know to what extent they've thought through what you've thought through or where they're coming from. It's just this random mix and stuff. That's why I encourage people, why I try when engaging with individuals to be humble, when engaging with ideologies, that's when you go to war. And that's basically my point about this Libs of TikTok channel, is that if people are going against the war, that's one thing, but you have to separate the individual from the ideology. And most people don't do that. Or there's a tendency to not do that. And yeah, sure, we need to judge people and shame people and like keep people in line, bully them and put them in lockers, maybe they'll just like magically get better because we'll put all this trauma in them that will magically just like fix them from all their inner beliefs, or we'll get them fired, and if they're indoctrinating adults, if they're adults indoctrinating children, if they're abusing power, sure, take them out of power and ridicule them. Absolutely. But it's just like, you have to connect with that human being over and over and over and over and over again. If you stop doing that, then what's the point? If everybody is just playing this tribal game, what's the point? What are we doing? I don't know why I got on that. I'm wrestling with something because I need to be more tribal. I need to sell out more, guys. I haven't taken a strong stance on vaccine passports. I need to get into the fray. I need to declare DeSantis either Satan or Santa. And until I do that, like I'm not a man. Super chat, $5. I'll fight you naked. Oh, will you? Do you know if Brett, 1T, and Heather are in dialogue with Sam Harris? I don't know. Sam has gone a bit off lately. He's always been a tad bit TDS, but I understood that. Yeah, Sam Harris actually apologized about the tweet that he made, I believe on January 18th, about finally the adults are back in charge, or finally I'm so grateful that the adults are back in the room. And then today he's like, I'm publicly eating my words. So he's kind of aware that what's going on. But I don't know if Heather and Brett are in contact. I don't know anything about anything behind the scenes. I do know that there's a high likelihood that I will finally, after 8.5 years, 4.5 years, I'm really sorry. After 4 years and a couple of months, I'll finally have Heather Hying on the channel. And we're going to talk about an evolutionary feminism. And we're also going to talk about her and Brett's forthcoming book. So look forward to that. I don't know when that will be, but hopefully that'll be sometime in September. Orc. Have Josh Slocum on your channel show. Been following you since the beginning. Appreciate you, even though we disagree with some things. Thank you. I don't even agree with me on some things. I just have to make a decision. I just have to make a decision. I don't agree with it, but you have to do that. So I don't even agree with all the things that I think. All the things. Josh Slocum. I will look into him. I think he does the Disaffected podcast. I need to listen to him. Yeah. Sam Harris went nuts with TDS. That was really weird, man. Really weird. Anyways, I should bounce. I should probably like make a Caesar salad and figure out a Floyd album to listen to. I hope you guys are great. I thank you very much for tuning in to my channel. Thank you so much for engaging respectfully with my guests insofar as you're able to do that. And thank you for listening to these conversations and those last two conversations with Vera and with Ash and Raphael, those were just like, I'm done. Like I should probably just start arbitrarily publishing the 4th season of my podcast or whatever, because those last 2 conversations were just so great. They're so great. Like Vera, I cried when I was interviewing her. I cried when I was editing it, and I cried in the premiere. Like, it was just so touching. It was just so powerful. It's like, that is the stuff. That is the stuff right there. Oh, that was great. And then, if you haven't watched that, that's up on my channel. There's 2 videos back, and the other video is with gender and autism with Ash and Raphael. And that one was just so special because I was going to have Raphael on as a parent, but I said, I have a problem interviewing somebody about somebody else. And I've kind of gotten a little bit of heat, and I've tried to defend myself. I don't interview trans widows because we're talking about a third person, and we're talking about a marriage, and there's so much there. And it's just like there's a smell test. Like, who are we talking about? How clear can you be about a story of your marriage, and not to denigrate the power of those stories, and those stories need to be told, but how do you conduct that story? Same with the parents of a gender questioning youth, or same with the parent of any kind of thing. It's like, how do you approach that? I guess you can talk about parenting in the abstract, but how can you actually talk about that other individual? And does that pass the smell test? And I said, Raphael, like, I would like to have this conversation with you, but I'm going to have to say, I will not publish it if it doesn't pass a certain smell test. It needs to have a certain level of verity to it. And he said, I'll do you one better. I'll have Ash on with me, which was just amazing. It was amazing. We got to see a father and son interacting, one level. A father and son that respect and love each other interacting, a teenage father and a a teenage son and a Gen X father, which is just like, there's just stacks and stacks and stacks. And I didn't know we were going to talk about autism. I thought we were just talking about gender. And then all of a sudden we go into this whole thing. It's just like, I was just so grateful for that. So thank you guys for supporting this channel, just by showing up and just by watching it and showing me through the numbers that it's viable for me to, do the work and find those kinds of conversations. That's the kind of stuff. That's the stuff. It's like invaluable. It's valuable and invaluable. So great. So thank you very much for allowing that to happen. You guys make this happen. You guys really make this happen. And, if I had a locals, I'd plug it, but I'm still wary of doing anything other than just posting my videos and letting people either, support me or not. But thank you for whatever you guys done, just showing up. And if you did listen to this in the end and you kind of got on halfway through, and I'm going to say that I'll keep this public. I'll keep this live for probably a day. And if I listen to it again and I think that it's okay, I might keep it up. But if not, then will put it unlisted into my live stream archive where all my live streams are. And you can find just how embarrassing I am and all the stuff that I've had behind myself. That's the spiel. You guys are great. Let us say goodnight. Be nice to each other. Snarky on the internet, but nice to individuals. Snarky against the ideology. Humans to humans. You guys have a good night.